You guys, Erin here, back with another moon update for you. We are having a full moon coming up this Wednesday, February 16th at 8:56 a.m. Pacific time. This full moon takes place in the sign of Leo, 27 degrees Leo. So for those of you who are new to my recordings, what this means is this is the peak of that lunar Leo energy for all of us, okay? This is a time to embrace our Leo growth that started approximately 6 months ago when we had the new moon in the sign of Leo. So how have we grown in the ways of a Leo over these last 6 months? Okay. So the sign of Leo is like the leader of the zodiac. It's ruled by the sun. The sun is obviously the brightest light in the sky. Sign of Leo tends to be the brightest shining light wherever it goes. In fact, people who have very prominent Leo energy coming through their natal chart, they tend to enjoy getting the attention. They tend to enjoy being the brightest light. Okay, this shining light. Now it's the fixed fire sign. By fixed, what I mean is it's kind of stabilized, does things in a steadfast way with determination, especially with that fire element coming through. The fire signs have a lot of energy, okay, but the fixed energy kind of holds that energy in. In fact, the sign of Leo has great vitality, not only because it's ruled by the sun, but because that fixed modality comes in and kind of stabilizes that heat. This is like an oven type of heat. It's stable. Okay. And not only that, but Leo is, represents, it's right in the middle of the summertime. So we're talking about when the sun goes through the sign of Leo, it's right in the middle of summertime. Its energy is hot, 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 hot. Okay. Now, also, this energy is very appropriately represented by the lion. Okay. Like the king of the jungle, the king who truly loves his people, or the queen who truly loves her people. Okay. And I'm not suggesting that every single person who's a Leo out there truly loves his people. There's so much more to the natal chart, but this energy in and of itself is really about the energy of truly loving the people, okay? And being the leader of, these people and loving them. Again, the king of the jungle. Now keep in mind, the lion is very, very courageous, but also very, very playful. Okay, this energy could be very playful. This is one of the things that I'm focusing on for this full moon, is embracing my energy for doing some playful things, because I think some of us have kind of forgotten about the playful energy that we really need and deserve in this lifetime. Okay, so that's something to put some focus on for this full moon. Now, also, Leo rules the heart. It's like coming through with that big love energy, big heart energy. That's another thing to really focus on with this full moon. Focus on your heart. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the chart and check out this full moon in Leo. Okay, so for starters, I work with geocentric Western astrology. Now, that said, what we're looking at here is basically a snapshot of the heavens for February 16th, 2022 at 8:56 a.m. Pacific time. We put Earth right here in the middle of this thing. These guys right here, these are all the symbols for the celestial bodies. Like here's Neptune, Jupiter, the sun, Saturn. Okay, over here is the moon. And we go in the wheel a little bit. And these guys right here, the symbols for the zodiac signs that these things will be beaming through at this time. Okay, so let's start out by focusing on the moon. Okay, so here's the moon at 27 degrees Leo. And real quick over here, we're going to see is the sun at 27 degrees Aquarius. Every single time we have a full moon, it means the sun and the moon are at exactly opposite sides of the zodiac. The moon is the mother, the sun is the father, and it's like they're looking at each other and they're embracing this growth that they've experienced. Okay, now 27 degrees Leo, this actually puts us in something called the third decan of the Leo season, and that actually brings in a little twist of Aries energy. Now, Aries is the warrior, so there's a lot of very strong energy that comes through here with this late degrees of that Leo energy with the moon in her fullest form. Now, this can also bring in dramatic emotions, okay? It's some very dramatic emotions. Really good idea to keep ourselves grounded, as with any full moon, but this is, again, especially with everything that's going on in the world, this can definitely lead to some dramatic emotions. And not only that, but what we see here, this red square going right through the middle of the chart here, is basically, we call this a grand square. What's happening here is the sun and the moon both are making almost an exact square, very, very close square to the nodes, the north and south node. And these are all coming through fixed signs. And not only that, but I'm talking about this in a minute, we don't have any retrogrades going on except for the nodes, but they're almost always in retrograde. That's an exception here. But we've got this fixed energy that's with dramatic emotions coming through the sign of Leo. Structure, a lot of structure coming through here. This is a very, very dynamic full moon, this energy, the blend of everything coming through. Let me touch on some of these things. So going back to the sun here at 27 degrees Aquarius. Okay. So Aquarius is a very, very important energy to understand right now. We're going into the age of Aquarius. Okay. Not only that, but we've got Saturn in Aquarius. And for this full moon, we've also got Mercury in Aquarius. And I can't believe nothing's in retrograde. This is so fascinating. Personally, I love Saturn in Aquarius. I mean, really everything in astrology has pros and cons to it. But what I'm seeing with Saturn going through the sign of Aquarius is he's bringing structure to the humanitarian groups. Sign of Aquarius is the sign of humanitarianism. It's also the sign of technology and information. It's very clear we're going into the age of Aquarius, right? But Saturn here is bringing structure to it, okay? Now, Mercury is working with his greatest strength in the sign of Aquarius. This is where Mercury loves to be. Mercury rules like our consciousness, has a lot to do with our communication skills. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, and the sign of Aquarius, again, has a lot to do with information, especially if it's coming through technology, okay? And it's 1 degree, that's very, very strong energy. I think Mercury is going to be stoked at this time. In fact, if you're somebody who needs to have a business meeting, this is a really good time to do it. As long as everybody can keep their dramatic emotions calmed, then this is a really good time for that. Or maybe days kind of following this full moon when things start to tone down a little bit and the moon moves into Virgo. Be good time for connecting with other people, and especially you humanitarian groups. Man, do I love seeing what's going on with this truckers convoy. And it makes absolutely perfect sense as to what we are being influenced with those celestial bodies. Okay. This right here, let's touch on this. This is Venus and this is Mars. You can see they're both going to be at 16 degrees Capricorn. This is an exact conjunction. In fact, they're going to be 1 minute away from each other at this full moon. Now, Venus, she's kind of the romantic energy. She's the influencer of softer love, a feminine love. And Mars is the dominant side of that. That's the masculine energy. He's about penetrating. Okay. You can even see his symbol right there. It looks like he's just ready to penetrate things. So this has a lot to do with relationships, has a lot to do with romantic relationships. Okay. And depending on how it's coming through your own natal chart, this could be magnificent for your relationship, but it can also be turbulent for your relationship, especially coming through that sign of Capricorn. Okay. More than anything, I would say focus on the structure of your relationship. Try your darndest not to let these dramatic emotions get in the way. Be calm, be grounded with whatever sort of turbulence is going on. And if it's a magnificent energy that's coming through your relationship, embrace it. Really enjoy it while it's there. Venus and Mars are going to be very close to each other for like 6 weeks or something like that. Now, also what we've got is Pluto. This full moon is just like 3 days before America's Pluto return. If you have not seen my video on America's Pluto return, please go check that out, because that is a very, very important transit, not just for the United States. Of course, that's where it's going to be most significant, but this is going to impact the world. Okay. Again, just please go see that video. It's a very, very powerful placement here with Pluto coming through 27 degrees Capricorn. Okay. Pluto is the influencer of power and destruction. That's what he does. Pluto destroys to create, like with a purpose, to create a death and rebirth process. Very, very powerful transformation coming through. Sign of Capricorn, which rules over authoritarian establishments. Okay. And if I'm just going to drop a little hint here, if you want to go see that video, it talks a lot about how this is going to affect the banking system or the monetary system, especially for the United States. Now that is making what we call an inconjunct connection over here to the moon. it's a one hard to see. And then not just on the chart here, but the in conjunct, that could be kind of a blind spot. There can be a lot of those dramatic emotions that are coming through can really affect the deep psyche for some people for this full moon. Okay, now let's see here. We've also got this right here. I keep talking about this, Uranus and Taurus. This is great okay, Uranus is still kind of in what we call his shadow period because he retrograded and now he's coming forward through the same space that he already retrograded through. So it's called the shadow period. So he's not really quite got the momentum that he wants yet. And he really struggles going to the sign of Taurus. Taurus rules money. Okay, rules, it's the out of all the zodiac signs, the sign of Taurus is most associated with monetary systems, with banking systems, with our value system even. And here's Uranus just about to start picking up his momentum again. I think he really starts that like March 20th or something like that, but he'll be out of his shadow period. Uranus brings abrupt and technological changes to whatever the energy of the sign that he's going through. So here he is bringing these abrupt changes to the monetary system. And then we've also got Pluto going through Capricorn in the United States second house. For those of you who understand what I'm talking about, some of you may not, but again, please go watch that Pluto return video. Now, this Uranus energy is finally making an opportunistic connection. He was really having a hard time being he was squaring Saturn, but now he is fine. And some astrologers may say he's still squaring Saturn, but that to be a really loose square. What I'm seeing, what's outstanding here is this is what we call a sextile connection up here to Jupiter, and Jupiter's working very comfortably in his own home in the sign of Pisces. This can expand this energy. This can expand that Uranus going through Taurus energy. I do think that the cryptocurrencies are going to start to go back up very soon here, especially now that things are no longer in retrograde. At least I think the next retrograde is in April. I think it's April 29th. Pluto goes in a retrograde. So we've really got some, let's get moving here type energy going on with all things. Okay. We've also got this spiritual energy coming through with Neptune and Jupiter going through the sign of Pisces. Okay. I'll talk more about that next month when we've got a new moon in Pisces. Now this overall, everything I just described, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Everything that's going on in the world, we're seeing structure to the humanitarian groups. We're also seeing a lot of power, like a power trip going on with authoritarian establishments, but that is about to make some big shifts here. And then the dramatic emotions coming through the moon, really, really good idea to keep ourselves grounded and connected to earth and try to keep our focus on the playful energy that can come through with Luna in her fullest form in the sign of Leo. Okay, actually one more thing before I really close this chart out. That sign of Aquarius over here, all this Aquarius energy, again, Aquarius has a lot to do with electrical energy. It's actually ruled by Uranus and Saturn as well, but has a lot to do with our electrical body, okay, our electrical field. In fact, when we've got a lot of Aquarius energy coming through, there's a strong tendency to want to use our electrical devices, okay, but it's also a little bit of an extra dangerous time, especially when the moon is going through Aquarius. But still, we've got this Aquarius energy coming through, has a lot to do with our electrical body, the toroidal field that's going around us, okay? And here's the moon in Leo ruling the heart. So that said, pay a little extra attention to that, especially those of you who are sensitive. You will probably be able to really do some sort of very heart felt meditation and, have it. You can really start to feel this stuff coming through that electrical body, through that toroidal field, especially if you're using proper stones or minerals for that. And that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. So the sign of Leo, the dedicated zodiacal birthstone for the sign of Leo is a ruby. Okay. Now I wear a ruby almost every day, set in gold. That's also Leo's metal. Okay. But that's because I have my Saturn in Leo, which Saturn constricts. So this is kind of opening up that Leo energy for me since Saturn's trying to restrict it. But a ruby is not the most ideal stone for everybody. If you've already got a ton of very strong Leo energy coming through, say your sun is conjunct Mars in the sign of Leo, you might not want to wear a ruby because you already got a ton of that. You're already like operating at that frequency. Okay. So for those of you who are just unsure if a ruby is ideal for you, this is what I suggest. This is what I do for myself. When I don't know for sure, or if I already know that this A stone is not the ideal stone for me to be wearing on my body, as you all know, I write in my journal every single new moon and full moon. For the new moons, I write down what I'm trying to bring into fruition. With the full moons, I write down my growth. I'm embracing the growth that I've experienced, okay? And I also usually write about my emotions when we have a full moon. But I write in my journal, and then if you've got a ruby and you're not sure if it's really the most appropriate stone for you to be wearing, take that ruby and put it on top of your journal. And I do this the night since this full moon peaks at 8:56 a.m. on February 16th, then the night before, that's when I will be writing in my journal and taking my stones out and putting them on top of my journal and putting them on a windowsill that will be exposed to the lunar energy that evening. Okay, so I hope that made sense. But, you know, if you are confident that, or you feel good wearing a ruby, then this is a really good time to wear a ruby. So you are kind of like operating the same frequency as the energies that we're receiving from the heavens. Okay, now some other stones. I will leave as usual, I'll leave a full extensive list of stones that really resonate well with that sign of Leo, like 20 or 30 different stones. But just to name a few of my favorites, okay, this right here is tiger's iron. This right here is tiger's eye. They look the camera's not gonna be able to pick up the difference, but these are a couple of my very, very favorite stones. And the reason for that is because especially tiger's iron is ideal for protecting us from other people's dramatic emotions. Okay. I'm somebody I am very, very sensitive to other people's emotions or just other people's energy as a Pisces, Sagittarius, rising moon in Cancer. And especially with no earth in my chart, I'm very, very sensitive to those things. So tiger's iron is one of my favorite stones for protecting myself against other people's, or just protecting myself against unwanted energies. And tiger's eye is a little bit this bring in more vitality. In fact, the two of these guys together is really, really good for our soul vitality. Okay. And then also, because I talked so much about the electrical energy, our electrical bodies being very, very sensitive, my very favorite stone for that, as many as you already know, is black tourmaline. This is the #1 stone I would recommend for protecting us against electromagnetic toxicity. Okay, black tourmaline is ideal for that, and pretty much resonate, is going to be protective for everybody. I can't imagine a natal chart where I would say, no, I wouldn't use black tourmaline. This is a really, really good one for everybody to keep around. There's all kinds of stones. Citrine, I'll leave a list so you guys can find some stones that resonate with this Leo energy and to put out on your journals the night before this full moon. And also, I'm just going to say this one more thing. I will leave my journal out, for example, when this full moon takes place in the morning, February 16th in the morning. So I'm going to write in my journal the night before, on February 15th, put my stones out on my journal on that windowsill. It's going to be exposed to the lunar energy that night. I'll leave my journal there for a couple of days. Okay. So it's taking on that energy. But to me, it's very important that I get this stuff written down before the actual full moon peaks. Okay, so I hope that made sense to you guys. And if you would like to schedule an astrology reading, please do visit my website, ErinWaageAstrology.com. I will leave a link to that. You can also, if you go to schedule a reading and you don't see anything that fits into your schedule, then just send me an email, because I can be a little bit flexible with my hours, especially for people who are in a different time zone and that sort of thing. Okay, so I do hope to hear from some of you guys. And until next time, namaste to all of you.